The thing I wanted to ask the group here, because Jerry Seinfeld is now going viral, Stugotz, and you know that I like to talk about the climate that the funny people find themselves in. Jerry Seinfeld is close to 70 years old. Jerry Seinfeld, comedy tends to age poorly generally, and I understand in the climate of today why comedians, even the greatest like him, would look at what's happening around comedy and not like how stifling it is. So I want to, as someone who has deeply admired Seinfeld's choices, Stugotz, because he just quit with the best television show and then made a really other cool television show, doesn't have to do anything else, and makes funny things. His stand-up special is, when he travels the world, it is a comedian's stand-up. Even if it's about nothing, the comedy is expert. You are watching a craftsman who all the other comedians want to please because he is the king of, I took this thing that is the hardest thing. You don't get any health benefits. It's just you and your funny, the expectation of funny. And I turned it into, I've got studios filled, airplane hangars filled with cars. I love classic cars. I'm a monster success. And then my co-creator goes and creates another show for 12 years that is one of the best shows, that never runs out of material, that honors the first show. The run of television over 25 years there, you're not going to find anything like it. Those guys are comedy gods. But Jerry Seinfeld, like a lot of comedians, even the ones who would tell you the way to handle today's cancel culture is be a better comedian. Be better at comedy. Don't complain about people getting offended. Just be better at comedy. Here's Jerry Seinfeld giving voice to something that is aging out in America. It's aging out in funny. It's aging out, and it feels threatened because young people have a different standard, and they'd like their comedy sometimes to be a little more polite, a little more decent.
Nothing really affects comedy. People always need it. They need it so badly, and they don't get it. It used to be you would go home at the end of the day, most people would go, oh, Cheers is on, oh, MASH is on, oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on, All in the Family's on. You just expected, there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap, and people worrying so much about offending other people. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke, well, that's the end of your comedy. They move the gates, like in skiing. Culture, the gates are moving. Your job is to be agile and clever enough that wherever they put the gates, I'm going to make the gate.
And he is, and he has been. He hasn't had very much in the way of ever stepping in it. And it can be said again, Larry David has navigated this course for 12 years since Seinfeld and has done it wildly successfully and has done it without any issues. But that would be politically on the other side. What Seinfeld is saying there is different than what Larry David has been. I don't think Larry David complains about PC culture, does he?
I don't think so. It was also interesting that he singled out the left instead of the right, or both, or neither. But I think he's right. I mean, nowadays you have to be so careful about what you say and who's in the audience and whether they're going to heckle you. I think heckling is back with stand-up comics now because you're going to offend somebody by saying just about anything, unless it's benign, observational humor.
Is heckling back? Are you making the announcement that not only the Panthers are going to win the Stanley Cup, but are you also making the announcement that heckling is up at comedy clubs?
Heckling is back. Yes, I am making that announcement from observation. I am.
My observation is that comedy is having a real renaissance period right now, and everyone is getting over on the fact that there's this presumed boogeyman of PC culture. I mean, making fun of the culture has been hugely financially rewarding for all these big top-line comics, that if there were actually these things in place that were out there to cancel them effectively, wouldn't be as huge as they are right now. It's a very convenient argument. And it's almost as if the industry has to keep propping that up because it goes directly into their wallet if you have this renegade stand-up comedian that goes at that notion.
It pays to be Andrew Schultz. It pays to They are filling out arenas right now.
No,
all over
that
the
is
place.
mainstream. Mainstream comedy right now is to openly have open disdain for this presumed villain, this foil of the art of stand-up comedy. And right now in my lifetime, stand-up comedy has never been hotter.
But I would say there is a foil, though. The foil, though, the thing that is happening with what Seinfeld is saying, Stugotz, that is both right and wrong, is there is a whole bunch of comedians, Mike was lamenting brands before, who have their own counterculture thing, who might be too hot for everything else in America, who are absolutely using corporate control, Andrew Schultz among them, as the new thing to say, the way people used to complain about just the media and everyone can get behind, the media. The idea that corporations are trying to control, though, they are. That's not false. Like
Yeah, they are.
There are more hands in this
Right.
pot telling comedians or trying to tell everybody what to do than there have ever been. Aggressive.
And they all have Netflix specials. Dan.
Middle
Middle
managers.
That works to the comedian's advantage, though.
they
It
all
gives
have-
them a foil. It gives them something to
no,
rail
these,
against.
These big time companies that are standing in the way of progress and actual true comedy. Let me work with Netflix. It's it's just it's a little hypocritical. Like we can all see through it, and it's great for the industry to keep that
You're
perception
saying-
out
I don't
there.
think people see that.
I
Mike.
think that
You're
there's a
saying-
real difference between, say, what Chappelle was doing over the course of, and I don't want to rehash it, over the course of 3 stand-up specials where one of the great communicators of our time struggled to get a joke across the line and just, saying like, what, I can't make fun of unibrows anymore. It's just a little bit different, but it's all good. The tide has been raised by whether we like it or not or agree with it or not. The perception is reality, and the tide has been raised because all these talented comedians are having a go at it.
I don't think most people see it, though. I don't think that most people understand that it is at least a thriving time in comedy because Louis C.K. can exist in a place amid all these other podcasts where it feels like they're too hot for the mainstream, and they continue to feed their brand as the only places that you can get Louis C.K.
That's why it's intellectually lazy to just label everything cancel culture, or previously, and I know Seinfeld's trying to bring it back, like what's referred to as politically correct behavior, because it's not a catch-all. There is a difference between what Louis C.K. did and then having to go at an overweight audience as a part of the crowd work in your act. Like it's just different, but it all gets to say someone's out to get me, and everyone loves, even when they're not, at a central casting looking like a victim. It is very popular in today's day and age. It's a brand to play the victim.
Okay, Mike, you're more of a consumer of stand-up comedy than I am, so I'm going to ask you this.
But you just announced that heckling is back.
I believe heckling is back. Yes.
I think heckling's back too,
I can't
because
I can't
stand-up
quantify
comedy
it.
is back, because
Right.
more people are going to see stand-up comedy shows, so you'll see more.
But here's my question: Is you're implying that there's some renaissance and big comeback for stand-up comedy? I would suggest there's just more stand-up comics who are feeding on the fact that there's a hunger for content. We see it in sports, and we're also seeing it in comedy, where there's so much streaming and so many opportunities to have televised stand-up comedy.
Yeah, but I
now
think
that-
it's concrete data. Like Netflix is spending more on these specials. Comedians are really enjoying the fruits of their labor in ways, and in many ways it was brought about because of the pandemic, because these people were out there, people were stuck to their devices, stuck in their homes, and a lot of comedians, Andrew Schultz chief among them, I think, and Joe Rogan, were speaking in real time to a crisis of people's lives. And because of that, people were binging stand-up specials and found more out. Things like TikTok and IG Reels.
Their podcast clips.
Yeah, dude, the pandemic also helped. And this whole culture of some of it legitimate, but this thing that is standing in the way of you laughing and having a good time in your time out, it all mixed up into this amazing stew that's making a lot of people a lot of money.
A thing that's not real. They exist with great freedom to laugh at everybody.